Hi, Love Bug. Welcome to the Naked Yoga Podcast. This podcast is all about incorporating bits and pieces of yogic philosophy and spirituality into your everyday life. I'm your host, Nneka, a graduate student at Columbia University's Spirituality Mind-Body Institute. I'm also a yoga and meditation instructor at a little studio called Core Power Yoga. You may have heard of it. My mission here is to help you nourish your mind, body, and spirit connection. Each podcast episode will begin with a guided meditation, followed by the core of the episode pairing a spiritual concept with science. Lastly, each episode will end with a mindful closure, providing you with actionable steps you can do after listening to deepen your mind, body, and spirit connection. So, without further ado, let's get right into today's episode. Hello, my loves, and welcome to another episode of the Naked Yoga Podcast. I have had quite the morning this morning, and I don't know, sometimes it just reminds me there are no rules in life, right? Like, I didn't really have anything for breakfast. I was like, oh, I'm going to have like eggs. I'm out of eggs. Okay, I'll have toast. All my pants are in the dishwasher. Okay, I'll make a smoothie. My like blender thing is also in the dishwasher. And then I was like, okay, it's fine. I'm just going to have some vegetable soup. I didn't have any pots. Like everything was in the dishwasher this morning. And so it was just quite the adventure. I ended up having some leftover pizza. And I think that's just like a beautiful reminder that like, while we can have these like constructs of like what a healthy breakfast should be, sometimes you just have to eat what you have. And that's the way life works sometimes. I am really excited for today's meditation. I believe we've done it in a prior podcast episode. Honestly, it's one of my favorites. It's the Ideal Life Meditation. And I'm trying to remember where I first heard this. I believe it is from a man on Insight Timer named Guri. I could be wrong. But essentially this meditation just really helps you get into like your higher power, your higher self, your dream life, your ideal life, which is possible in this lifetime. I am a firm believer in that. If something is on your heart, that is because it is achievable for you. I believe we have a kind and benevolent like universe, and it just wants to give you everything you deserve and the divine timing, of course. So I'm rambling, but let's just get right into this meditation. Take some time to begin to settle into your space, noticing where you can soften in your body and just beginning to notice the ground underneath you, the ground that's supporting you, the ground that has carried you throughout your whole life. Finding gratitude for the little things that brought you here. And when you're ready, I invite you to put one hand on your heart and one hand on your belly, and just begin to notice your pranayama, your life force, your breath as it enters your body and as it leaves your body. I invite you to release your tongue from the roof of your mouth. Soften the space between your eyebrows. And to just begin to let go. If you're able to, I invite you to begin to close your eyes now. And as you close your eyes and relax your eyelids, I invite you to begin to imagine the life that you want to live. We will start with the home. Imagining your ideal living situation. Maybe it's living by yourself for the first time, moving in with a best friend, a loved one, a partner. Are there children in the home? Maybe it's even moving back in with your parents or your grandparents or your siblings and just enjoying a new chapter of familial living. Whatever it is for you, I invite you to take a deep breath in and notice what it smells like. Are there cookies baking in the oven? Is it filled with the sound of children and laughter? Maybe a loved one is playing an instrument, the guitar or the piano in the home. Whatever your ideal life looks like for you, begin to envision it now. I now would like to invite us to transition into our relationships. What do your ideal relationships look like? Maybe you're moving to a new city and you want to spend some time cultivating new friendships in your life. Or maybe you have great quality friends, but you're not able to spend as much time or be as present as you would like to be. Maybe it's strengthening your relationship with your partner and getting ready to take that next step. Or maybe you're intentionally single and just waiting to meet the right person, or just spending time cultivating your own self-love. Maybe there are relationships within your family that you want to heal with your mother or your father or your siblings. How does it look like to strengthen these relationships? Does it take the place of a phone call on a weekly or bi-weekly basis? Maybe in your new ideal living situation, you're able to host your friends over for a weekly movie night or at-home karaoke. Or maybe you just carve out some intentional time to have a date night once a week with your friend, a lover, or by yourself. Taking the time to visualize these relationships and how they actually look like and how they make you feel. Take some time to visualize that now. I now invite you to begin to shift your focus towards your career. How do you make money? And is this way of earning an income and a living aligned with your values? What does a typical work week look like for you? Are you a morning person? Do you like to clock in at 8 o'clock and clock out at around 4? Are you more of an evening person and would prefer to start a little later, like 11 a.m., and then leave around 7? Are you able to travel freely and work remotely? Or maybe you're the type of person that really thrives in community and collaboration and would prefer to go into an office. There's no judgment here. Just take some time to think about, what does your career look like for you? What are your next steps? Have you been thinking about going back to school and getting another degree? or maybe pivoting and switching your career altogether. Don't limit yourself here. Allow yourself to call in and to visualize exactly the type of career you want. And I even encourage you to put a finger inside your head. How much money would you ideally make in your career? I would like to invite you to put in any missing pieces. Maybe you have a big trip and a big vacation coming up, or an anniversary you're looking to celebrate, or a graduation. What does the next 6 months have in store for you? What does the next year have in store for you? And simply put, what are you looking for in this lifetime? Taking some time now to color in all the personal details that make your life worth living. All right, my loves, don't you just love this meditation? We're going to begin to transition out with 3 breaths. When you're ready, nice big inhale and exhale. Inhale and exhale. Last time, inhale and exhale. Inhale, hands to Anjali Mudra, hands to prayer. And exhale to bow forward. Namaste. I invite you to take some time to pause this podcast, meditate a little bit more maybe, or just journal about what big things kind of came through for you. And I will meet you guys on the other side. Hello, my loves. Welcome. I hope you really enjoyed that meditation because I just feel so rejuvenated. Every time I do it, I'm just like, yes, this is the life that I want to live, and it's possible. And every time I just feel like I'm getting closer and closer to that ideal vision. And it's funny too, because throughout our lives, I feel like things also change frequently. Like when I did this meditation at the beginning of the year, my ideal home situation looks very different than what it looks like now. I honestly feel like living in New York City, I have really found like my dream New York apartment, and I feel just so blessed to live in this like luxury 1-bedroom apartment. It's literally all of my dreams and more. But with these big changes that I have coming up in my life, I'm like, wow, now my ideal living situation is going to be living in harmony with my best friend in his brother's townhouse. And that's just really different than where I saw my life going 6 months ago. But que sera, whatever will be, will be. So I wanted to chat with you guys today about like building healthy habits and happy routines. And if you're a listener of this podcast, then you're probably someone who's either curious about yoga or maybe an active yogi. And I'm here to tell you that, like yoga, many things in this lifetime are a lifelong practice. And the biggest accomplishments in life, whether it's like hitting a certain yoga pose or getting a big shiny new job or building and finding a loving relationship after kissing so many frogs, so many, or even like just having the courage to shift and try something new. All of these things like don't happen overnight, and it really takes time to kind of build that trust and confidence, not only in yourself, but also in the universe and your higher power to guide you throughout the way. And this isn't something that you have to practice on like a consistent basis, right? So like some day, like things ebb and flow. So whether you take a yoga class like once a week, or you're working, clocking in at 9 to 5, 5 days a week, or like kissing a lot of frogs to build those relationships skills, or even just like listening to your gut and trusting yourself and moving in alignment, despite how crazy it may seem to anything else. Doing all these things, whether you're as consistent as you like to be or not, like you are continuously dropping little pieces of experiences in your like little trust bucket or faith bucket or whatever you want to call it. It takes time to kind of build like and become the kind of person that you really want to be. And so I don't know, I think that's just like something we have to think about and like reflect on. Like it's so hard to kind of make these huge sudden shifts and movements, but if we kind of break them down into like little bite-sized micro habits, then it's not as scary. Anyways, so I'm rambling a little bit, but I wanted to talk to you guys about this wonderful article that I found. It's in the Journal of Positive Psychology, and it's called "In Search of Durable Positive Psychology Interventions, Predictors and Consequences of Long-Term Positive Behavior Change." And so I thought this would be really relevant because personally in my life right now, I think I've been kind of faltering on my habits that keep me happy and healthy. And so things come up, right? Like I honestly just had such a whirlwind of emotions and experiences from graduating my university, having all my friends and families surrounding me and just being like, oh my gosh, I did it. And then also being like, oh gosh, and I'm leaving New York City, which is, it's a lot. But I do want to talk about this article because I think it's honestly like probably one of the cornerstones of positive psychology research. And so the authors are Michael Kahn, who I don't know too much about, but Barbara Fredrickson, who is like amazing. I am a huge fan of her research. She's a leader in positive psychology research, and she's like a feminist researcher, which is like so cool. One of her like founding theories that she, I guess, created in feminist psychology is the objectification theory, which you may have heard of. But essentially, objectification theory is when, due to our misogynistic society, as a part of the socialization of girls and women, it's the notice of the male gaze and then adapting your behavior for either protection to avoid sexualization, or to kind of like, I guess just protection. I don't really want to get into the other half of it because it can get kind of crazy. But yeah, so that was really huge. I actually wrote a huge article about this too, for one of my papers for my women in psychology class. But it was really, really cool. And so objectification theory, I feel like Barbie, the movie, actually does a really, really good time or good job of explaining this when like Barbie comes to the real world and she's like, oh my God, I suddenly feel super aware and a little self-conscious of my outfit and everyone's staring at me. And it's like, yep, male gaze turning female bodies into objects. Objectification theory. And then on the positive psychology note, one of her cornerstones of positive psychology research is the broaden and build theory. And honestly, this theory is the foundation to positive psychology. And essentially, you must broaden the good experiences that you notice and build upon them. If done continuously, it's been proven to turn a pessimist into an optimist. So by broadening, you are meant to kind of identify positive things that are happening in your life. This is the science that's behind like these gratitude journals, gratitude letters, just meditation in general, and then also building upon your resources that you already have, right? So the entire concept, actually, let me read you a section for the article because they illustrate this really well. Hold on one second. The broaden and build theory emphasizes that resources built via positive emotions are durable. A person who is experiencing expansive and generous during a time of joy will have social resources to draw on later when they are struggling. For example, one who takes the time for idle chat with neighbors might learn about an unexpected job opportunity, a great new restaurant, or a home remedy they used when their dog was sprayed by a skunk. These resources, in this case relationships, skills, and knowledge, are far more stable and long-lasting than emotional experiences and can be practiced and put to use regardless of one's current mood. Thus, we hypothesize that individuals who had built resources during the initial intervention would maintain the same resource levels at follow-up, even if they were no longer meditating or experience elevated PEs or positive emotions. Okay, let me back up a little bit because I did not lay down the groundwork for the study. So this study was all about checking up and following up on people who experience positive psychology interventions. And so I think I listed a few of them, but like gratitude journaling is one of them. Writing a gratitude letter is one of them. A spiritual obituary, like what you want to be known for when you die and move on from this lifetime. There's actually a lot of positive psychology interventions, and I was actually working on a program of like psychology interventions. I wonder if you guys would be interested in that, but I'm getting a little distracted. But essentially, so they had over 200, I think it was 202 participants in the original positive psychology intervention. And then after a year, they had about 64%, I think it was like 95 participants, yes, agreed to be in the follow-up study a year later. And so what makes positive psychology so different than all of the psychological interventions that we have, including like drugs, honestly, like pharmaceuticals, is that we're actually seeing people like continue to embrace these things, right? And so one of the points in the article is that like, yes, like people who continue the meditation and other positive psychology interventions were like definitely doing a lot better. But to the point of that quote, even people who like had stopped doing like the gratitude journaling and all the other stuff, they still saw lasting positive effects and like awards and emotions, just because like once you're able to experience that joy, like the resources don't go away, right? The relationships you created while you're in that really happy and nyonya state, like don't go away. Also, I actually wanted to talk about that too. So we hear of like paranoia all the time, obviously, but there's also a Greek parallel to the word called eunoia, and it's pure thinking, a well-balanced mind, a good spirit, and overall beautiful thinking. And I think as I began my career in like professional psychology, I really think there's a lot of focus on the negative and not so much on the positive. And so I really enjoyed this study because it says that like, yeah, it is 100% the best thing for you to do to meditate every single day, but it might not be realistic, and don't get down on yourself if you can't do it, right? We try to make these happy, healthy habits. We try to live in these routines and stuff, but life happens. And sometimes it's spirit moving you to be a little bit more spontaneous or not to be so rigid in what you find your identity to be, and to allow the universe to come in and go with the flow. And I think what this study just really illustrates beautifully is that like you can have your routines and they will always be there for you to come back to. But it's okay if you're someone who's not able to get to a gratitude journal every day, or down to your yoga mat every day, or meditate absolutely every day. You can still reap these benefits. They are lifelong. And I think that's what I really want to emphasize when talking about like building healthy and happy routines and relationships, giving yourself grace to know that like, hey, it's going to ebb and flow. And I am just a morning person. I like to wake up at like 6 a.m. every day, sometimes 5:30. And it actually took me quite a while to get to this morning place, and I really enjoy being in it. But sometimes I do like to sleep in until like, maybe 9 on the weekends. And I'm still getting all the benefits of like waking up with the sun. But I also have time to kind of start my morning slow and take what I need when I need it. And for me, I think that's like the most important thing, right? So this study was relatively small. I honestly think it's amazing, but they do need to have a larger sample size in order for it to be super relevant and to hold up in the scientific community. But I think something that was beautiful that also came from the study is the fact that they had a hard time really getting like a significant, not like a Cronbach alpha, but I'm forgetting the scientific term for it. Anyway, it was hard to be super scientific strongly. It's hard for the data to really stand on its own because the people who were no longer in that intervention and were following up with them a year later, the beautiful thing that happened was that people were like making their own routines, right? So they were exposed to like a wide array of like positive psychology interventions, and people kind of like made up their own. Like some people started like a prayer practice, some people started a meditation practice, some people continue to do exactly what was in the intervention. But we're seeing this beautiful thing that when people are able to kind of like choose their adventure and choose what works for them, some people prefer to journal, some people prefer art as a way to like worship and meditate and be one, or even like yoga. That choice, while it sucks for science because we can't compare apples to oranges to watermelon, but at the end of the day, it's all fruit and it's all good for you, right? So while the scientific community is kind of a bit at a standstill because there's so much free will and there's so much choice, and when you're trying to see if an intervention is still working, it's not the same as like, oh, like this person took Prozac and then they kept taking Prozac and the Prozac is working, which honestly, for most pharmaceuticals, after you stop taking them, you end up regressing to a place that was worse than where you were before. God, that was a bit of a Debbie Downer. But clearly with these positive psychology interventions, you're able to kind of choose your own adventure and create a happy and healthy routine that really works for you. And while science can't really stand 10 toes behind that because there is so much diversity and just the spiritual practice that work for individuals, I think that's something that we can take with us. And I hope that's something that I'm illustrating to you guys clearly in this podcast episode, that no matter what you want to do in your ideal life, it is possible and you have the tools to kind of get there. So with that being said, let's transition into our honorable closure. Okay, thank you guys so much for listening. For our honorable and mindful closure, I have 2 questions for you guys based on the meditation that we did at the top of the episode. So number 1, I invite you to reflect on how can you bring your ideal life to life right now in the present moment. And then number 2, what habits do you need to cultivate in order to bring them closer into reality? With everything that we kind of talked about, I really hope that you know that you have everything you need to do it and you know what you need to do next. So I'm going to love you and leave you here. I will talk to you guys next week. Thank you so much for listening, and I will see you on the other side. Bye. Thank you so much for listening to another episode of the Naked Yoga Podcast. My name is Nneka, and if you want more content from me, you can follow me on Instagram or subscribe to my YouTube channel at Nourish Nneka. This is a completely independent podcast. Yes, I write the scripts, record, and edit the podcast all by myself. Therefore, any support you could give, like a like, a share, a comment, maybe leaving a little review on Apple Podcast or wherever you might be listening would go a very long way and warm my little itty bitty heart. Thank you so much once again for listening, my love bug. I will see you in the next episode.